Members, we'll commence a session on works. I'll first ask the Secretary for Development, Ms. Bernadette Lin, to give her opening remarks, and then we'll go into Q&A session. Members wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. Thank you, Chair. In 2025-26, the total estimated expenditure of the works branch and departments under its purview is about $24.5784 billion. There is an increase of about $1.2945 billion compared to the revised estimate of last year, mainly due to the increase in non-recurrent expenditure and related cash flows. And these will ebb and flow year by year. In this session, I will talk in particular about the work of the Development Bureau in the Works portfolio. Land and infrastructure development are important investments for the long-term development of Hong Kong. But we will endeavor to properly control the costs of public works projects by adopting strategic measures in 4 major directions. First, we will optimize the mode of procurement of projects, one of which is to adopt centralized procurement this year. We will take the lead in developing specific programs for 2 types of construction products, namely MIC, modular integrated construction components, and steel reinforcement. Second, we have commissioned the HKBTRI, Hong Kong Building Technology Research Institute, to review and optimize Hong Kong's building standards and harmonize the differences in testing and certification requirements between different geographical standards, so as to facilitate the application of quality and cost-effective building materials from the mainland and overseas in Hong Kong. Third, we will continue to take the lead in accelerating digitalization and applied R&D in the construction industry and promote advanced technologies to enhance cost effectiveness. Through the CITF Construction Innovation and Technology Fund, we will step up our efforts to promote advanced technologies in the industry. Fourth, the Development Bureau, in conjunction with various bureaus and departments, will continue to take forward measures to streamline development control, including promoting self-certification, introducing more stage submission arrangements, reviewing the requirements for submission of technical assessments, and streamlining the land administration procedures and approval processes. Another important part of our work is to promote professional development of the construction industry. The continuous development of the industry requires talents on different levels. We have earmarked $15 million to continue the work of the Center of Excellence for Major Project Leaders, COE, in the next 2 years to enhance the professionalism, innovation, and cost-effectiveness management of the construction industry, and at the same time, facilitate cross-regional and cross-sectoral exchanges. We will also continue with the on-the-job training allowance pilot scheme. In the 2 past academic years, the scheme has sponsored about 1,000 higher diploma graduates to pursue part-time degree programs related to the industry. To help more young people grasp the opportunities available, we will work with the Construction Industry Council, CIC, to allocate a total of about $95 million to continue to provide on-the-job training allowance at the same level as before for about 1,000 more trainees in the 2 coming academic years, like we did for these 2 years. Noting the recent decline in the volume of private sector works, we have introduced another initiative to subsidize employers in recruiting and retaining young professionals in the industry so as to sustain the development of the industry's talent pool. The CIC will subsidize about $150 million to provide on-the-job training for about 2,500 engineering, architectural, surveying, planning, and landscape degree graduates and assist them in obtaining professional qualifications. The scheme has been open for application since mid-March. Another important part of our work is to promote cooperation between the local construction industry and the mainland, specifically the Greater Bay Area. This is to tie in with the national strategy of having high-quality construction in the Greater Bay Area. We have been working with mainland authorities and local professional institutes to secure mainland recognition of qualifications, professional titles for Hong Kong construction professionals. Last year, a pilot scheme was successfully launched, and 207 Hong Kong engineers were awarded with mainland professional titles through the mechanism. The assessment mechanism will be regularized in the middle of this year and extended to other construction-related disciplines for professionals' development in the mainland. The governments of Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau have been actively promoting the establishment of GBA standards and the implementation of the OEMC arrangement, one examination, multiple certification arrangement, to enhance the quality of construction training in the Greater Bay Area. We piloted GBA standards for painters and bricklayers and implemented the OEMC arrangement last month. We plan to formulate the GBA standards for the first technical work post on a trial basis this year. Taking into account the experience of implementation and prevailing circumstances, we will take forward the relevant arrangements for other major trades and posts in the construction industry in an orderly manner. We are also working with the Guangdong Provincial Department of Housing and Urban Rural Development to actively promote the complementary advantages of MIC and development of the industry in the GBA. We have many different areas of work under the works portfolio, including waterworks, heritage conservation, major infrastructure projects. The relevant details have been set out in the controlling officer's reports, and we have already provided relevant replies. My team and I are happy to take questions from members now. Thank you, Chair. We have 73 minutes left. We have 13 members who have pressed the request to speak button, and Professor Priscilla Leung actually pressed the request to speak button in the last session, and her questions are set to straddle the two sessions, so I will let her ask her questions here. Next to speak would be Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Mr. Chen Sil Hong, Mr. Tan Ka-piu, Professor Chow Man Kong, Mr. Luk Chung Hong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Yu Pak Leung, Mr. Benson Luk, Mr. Lam Chen Sing, Mr. Lau Kwok Fan, Mr. Ho Jun Chow, Deputy Chairman, and Mr. Yim Kong, Professor Priscilla Leung. Thank you, Chair. I'm very glad to hear that the Secretary said that you did not engage any external lawyers for any legal consultations. And today we are talking about controlling project costs. Let me declare something. I am dealing with some government contracts with contractors, and some disputes have arisen. And the DOJ has been promoting mediation before litigation. I want to ask the Secretary, with cost management, before the mediation-related policies are promulgated with contract disputes, you would have already tried the mediation route. I, of course, am in the legal sector, so in a way we may prefer having more disputes, but then we would, of course, support having gone for mediation first to deal with the related legal disputes.
Secretary. Chairman, I would defer the question to the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Ricky Lau. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Professor Leung. We do encourage resolving contractual disputes by way of mediation. Now, in our capital works contract, we would stipulate a clause that parties should first resort to mediation. Only failing that, should a case be taken to the court. Now, we have vast experience in using mediation as a dispute resolution method. And also, we have a mechanism for us to resort to mediation before we take the matter to court. So we think this is very effective in dealing with disputes. Now we are now using the new capital works contract, which encourages the parties, including the landlord, the consultants, and the contractor, to sit down together and find a way to resolve the matter amicably. Now, the government often engages consultants, so maybe there are lawyers among them. Now, the DOJ only announced the measure of mediate first recently. So, for contracts before the announcement, what about them? I think there should be a guideline in place. Usually, you would just leave the matter to the consultants, and that comes with a cost. The fee they charged is on a par with lawyers. So are we resolving the matter in a way that is a win-win situation and the most cost-effective manner? Now, in the past, government officials or contractors would simply let the contractors or consultants handle the cases. So I wonder whether this culture of mediate first is inculcated in the minds of frontline officials. We have incorporated the clause of mediate first universally in our contracts. And we have a team comprising colleagues seconded from the DOJ under us. They would assist our colleagues in the works department to handle the mediation process. Now, they would assist us to resolve the matter by way of mediation. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, thank you. My question is in relation to reply DVB039 about MIC. Now, on modular integrated construction methods and its developments in Hong Kong, I asked some questions, and the reply was very positive. The government has been working with the Guangdong province to promote the use of MIC in construction works. And also, the government has been collaborating with other parties to promote the use of MIC. In the Secretary's opening remark, she said the government is now working with the Housing and Urban Renewal Departments of the Guangdong province to promote the use of MIC. So in terms of accreditation and wider adoption of MIC, I look forward to seeing a wider adoption. Now that brings me back to my question in the previous session. It was about land planning. I asked whether the nearshore reclamation projects in Longkou, Tan, and also the replanning of Tuen Mun West area, including the river terminal, will there be a sizable industrial park for the industry in the area? So I invite the government to tell us the plan and also the timetable. Promoting MIC needs space. Although the modular compartments are produced in the mainland, we need places in Hong Kong to store the components. And also some processing work needs to be done before they are transported to the construction site. Now the government is resuming brownfield sites. It impacted operations for storage, including storage for construction components. So this is really troubling the construction industry. I would like to know from the government whether there is a clear timetable for that. Secretary, Thank you. On MIC, we're now adopting measures which does not require land in Hong Kong, that is certification. Now the BTRI, the Building Technology Research Institute of Hong Kong, has started the accreditation scheme for MIC manufacturer. That will help promote the adoption of MIC in Hong Kong. Those manufacturers under the scheme are certified to be quality manufacturers. Now we need an industrial park in Hong Kong for promoting construction technologies, including MIC. Now we are now conducting a replanning exercise for the Tuen Mun West and Lung Gu Tan area. There will be a nearshore reclamation project. In the middle of this year, we will report to the panel on development about our proposal. It is a rare site in Hong Kong which faces the west and is near the shore. Now, industry will be the main axis in the plan. That includes construction industry, new energy industry, and recycling industry. The other place for that is the northern metropolis. Near Ta Kwu Ling, we have reserved land for an industrial park for the construction industry, but that will come later. In the short term, we will identify sites near Hong Shui Kiu. Now the TLB has reserved some 30-hectare land for logistic purpose. A research will be conducted this year by the TLB to identify the latest needs of the logistics industry, whether lands can be set aside for building an industrial park for the construction industry. There will be more idea then. Mr. Chen Siu-Hong, thank you, Chairman. I would like to follow up on reply 004. That's my own question about BTRI. I'm concerned about the financial sustainability and the financing model of the BTRI. Now, $10 million have been injected for a startup fund for the BTRI for its initial operation. The government said that the BTRI's operation will achieve a balance in the short run. Now, how does it generate its revenue from commercialization of technology and providing accreditation service? And when will the BTRI be able to break even? Does the BTRI have the capacity to achieve a balance? If not, will the government continue to make injections into the BTRI? Now, the government said that the BTRI will collaborate with the Center for Construction Robotics to conduct trials on technologies of the construction industry. And also the BTRI will continue to take forward the accreditation scheme for quality MIC manufacturer. Now, I wonder whether the role of BTRI is overlapping with other bodies. For example, the accreditation services provided by the HKCA, BBQ, and the Housing Authority, that includes cement and other construction materials. That is also available under the BTRI as well. It is also responsible for registration of MIC manufacturers. Now, there is also a construction material laboratory under the CDD. In 2018, the CITF Construction Innovation and Technology Fund was established. With the $2.2 billion fund, the government will promote the adoption of high-tech construction technology. Now, it seems the fund is being used by various organizations, but BTRI lacks sufficient funding. There are many organizations making use of the same fund, doing similar work. So how can we avoid overlapping of resources and roles? Thank you. A series of questions on reply 004. I would defer to Mr. Ricky Lau. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Member. The first question on the income of the BTRI and also the financing model, whether it is sustainable. The BTRI is a company wholly owned by the government. We injected a $10 million startup fund initially. In terms of R&D, accreditation, and testing, these are the major work areas of the BTRI. We have very close partnership with the BTRI because we are responsible for its work. The BTRI has submitted a work plan to the government, and there are many stakeholders in the construction industry which have been collaborating with the BTRI. It runs on a commercial model, and the fee it charges is reasonable. Now, we have looked at the budget of the BTRI, and we think the financial position is healthy. In terms of its collaboration with other organizations and the BTRI's role, it has an advantage. Besides R&D, it is also a standard-setting body. So its role differs from other organizations. Other organizations mainly focus on R&D activities. Now, the BTRI plays a coordinating role in many projects. Memorandums have been entered into between the BTRI and other universities. There will be many projects in the near run. Now, concerning the CTIF, in promoting the use of advanced technologies and advanced materials, we usually try out these materials and technologies in our work sites. And if the BTRI thinks these methods are feasible, we will set a standard. And then we will make use of the CITF to provide incentives for other stakeholders to also use the advanced technologies and materials in the projects, so as to promote the use of these methods in the private sector. This will enhance the efficiency of the trade as a whole and also safety at workplace. Just very briefly, Chairman, I hope that the administration would conduct timely review to integrate resources in various funds so that we can fully utilize the resources. Mr. Bill Tang, thank you. Two of my questions, 67 and 106, energizing Kowloon East. Now, first on reply 106, about cracking down on abuse of the water meter system. Between 2022 and 2024, 1,000 SDUs have been installed with independent water meter. So the basic housing unit regime will take effect by 2027. There will be BHUs beginning to be registered. So maybe the team of inspectors under the WSD no longer have to conduct inspection. On the other hand, there is another team of colleagues under the WSD responsible for installing the independent water meters because that's a basic requirement for the BHUs. So what is the manpower position of the WSD? Will the WSD require the landlord to pay for the installation fee? Now, the other question is about energizing Kowloon East. Now, we had a very nice experience working with the commissioner in the office, so we thank the government for appointing someone capable to be the director of the office. However, we need someone who also know economy as well. They need to know how to attract investments and capital into the region. Now, despite the positioning of Kowloon East as the second central business district, the director responsible does not have that expertise. So what is the contribution to the GDP by the CBD2? How many people are employed? How many enterprises have their headquarters or regional headquarters in the CBD2? And what is the vacancy rate of the offices in the CBD2? None of these questions have been answered. Since we are striving for economic development, we really need officials who understand how the economy works to join or head the Energizing Kowloon East office. Will the government establish a committee comprising members from the private sector, like property developers and so on? We know we are focusing on the northern metropolis, but we can't neglect the Kowloon East.
主席，
2 questions, Secretary. Thank you. I'll first answer the question on Kowloon East, and then I'll ask the Director of Planning to answer the other question. If we are to expand the scale of the EKEO further, it would not be ideal. Instead, we are trying to work with Oasis and Invest Hong Kong to deepen our cooperation, not only for Northern Metropolis. In fact, when people ask us where to rent, we need to tell them about different areas of Hong Kong, including Kowloon East. And depending on their interest, Invest Hong Kong, Oasis will engage representatives from the Development Bureau to take part in the meetings. All right, I'll ask Director of Water Supplies to answer the other question. Thank you. Thank you. As said, in the past 3 years, we have installed 1,000 smart water meters for subdivided units. In future basic housing units, most likely than not, we would have smart water meters as a fixture, and we have a 35-person team to initiate prosecutions. We'll flexibly deploy manpower if necessary, and the water supply applications would be made by the owners, actually. We do understand that there may be a large number of applications, so we are going to adopt a self-certification approach, and as long as the industry adopts this, we would most likely allow this and facilitate the relevant arrangements, and they will charge the owners affordable fees. Thank you. Professor Chang Man Kong. I want to ask about 010, a question asked by me, the effectiveness of the work of the PSGO, Project Strategy and Governance Office. In fact, the public works projects account for 10% of government expenditure, and in 2024, it will increase from $99 billion to $120 billion. We have all along been plagued by problems with high costs and long construction periods. The PSGO scrutinized 16 projects which were subject to funding approval by the Finance Committee of the Council, and successfully saved about $11.6 billion in construction costs out of the original estimate of about $83 billion. So that is approximately, so we have already approved 70 odd projects, so that would already be 30 odd projects. So the PSGO scrutinized 16 projects, so about half of it. So what criteria did the PSGO adopt in choosing which projects to scrutinize? would you scrutinize all of the projects to be submitted to the finance committee, or would you randomly select some projects, or would you have some criteria? As I said earlier, you have successfully saved about $11.6 billion out of the original estimate of about $83 billion. You may be able to save more if you scrutinize more projects. You also save 10% of projects as contingency, and it is said for 11 projects, they are not completed on time. But it does not say whether you have gone over budget. So can you say how much contingency has been used for these 11 projects? You can provide written response later. Often we don't know in the end where did the 10% go. So if you can elaborate on what happened to the contingencies of these projects, that would be ideal. Thank you. Secretary. For the PSGO, whether they will look at each and every project to be submitted to the Finance Committee for consideration, I'll let Mr. Ho, Tony Ho, answer that question. Thank you. In fact, we would most likely scrutinize most of the projects to be submitted to the Finance Committee. We have adopted a threshold of $1 billion. We would have a detailed scrutiny of these projects with an amount above $1 billion. We would even hold meetings. We would conduct high-level comparisons. We would review the costs of similar projects. And then we will go into the details to see if there are items that can be improved on. And it is said for the 16 capital works projects, we have mostly saved that $11 billion because we had reviewed whether there was room in improvement. Excuse me, I want to ask for the capital works reserve fund projects. Would you review those projects as well because they take up a large amount? Thank you. Most of the projects would be under the CWRF, but for those under $15 million, we have another pool, and we would arrange meetings to deal with projects in that pool specifically, from $30 million to $15 million. I think if you look at the projects at different scales, you will be able to save much in cost. Thank you. Mr. Lo Chung Hong, I want to ask about 066, a question asked by Mr. Tan Ka-Pew, also a question on PSGO. We have been able to save 15% on project costs and 13% last year. I think we have achieved much. But from a taxpayer's perspective, we should save as much as possible. This is what the Finance Committee has been trying to do. As Professor Chow Man Kong asked, you provided an answer saying that for the projects with an amount of $10 billion or higher, you would have more detailed scrutiny, but the others should go about easier. So Area 29 in Kutong North and Area 39 in Tongchong also has some primary school projects. They both have 30 classrooms, and they occupy a similar area size, and the shapes of these sites actually look similar as well. Why did you adopt different designs for these two comparable projects? You can just make use of MIC and centralized procurement. We have been talking about how centralized procurement would save much in public money. For schools, sports centers, or public housing, it would be ideal to adopt a modular design. Of course, we are not saying we should adopt the 70s approach. We should have no character at all, but I think we can adopt a standardized design. Is it possible for us to make use of a design and build model and that should help us save costs if we adopt this tendering approach. I also want to ask if the PSGO has any views on standardized design. Thank you. Secretary, are you going to answer this question? Thank you. I would say this. How much we can adopt a standardized design, I will ask the permanent secretary to answer this question. As for whether we can have a streamlined approval process, I'll ask the undersecretary to answer this question. Let me say this. We have been looking at how we can streamline workflows, but I'll let them answer the questions. Thank you. Permanent secretary, thank you. For schools, indeed, for, say, classrooms, they are standardized. So we want to, of course, adopt some design standards, and we will try to adopt MIC. The Architectural Services Department has been looking at how for schools, say for classrooms or the communal facilities, we can adopt standardized designs and as much as possible adopt MIC so as to enhance speed and lower the costs. As for design and build, we would consider using this approach in various projects. For the more complex projects, we will adopt this model. On management, I'll let the undersecretary supplement my answers. We have been trying to incorporate technologies and we are moving towards digitalization. We hope to make use of AI more to help us with management. Thank you. Mr. David Lam, Undersecretary. Thank you. We have been trying to streamline development control, and we have dozens of initiatives that will be put into place this year. For public works, we have some latest requirements. We do not need departments to go through tiers of approval. So we have been asking departments to streamline the tiered hierarchy, and if possible, frontline officers should make reports for steering as soon as possible. So we have been working internally to streamline the approval processes so as to enhance speed and lower costs. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you. I have two questions on 028 and 097, both of which are my questions. I want to first ask about 028 on procurement of materials, innovative materials in particular. I see in the reply that the administration has been working hard to promote the use of innovative construction materials, and they need to collect more data to say which materials are good for use. But then I can see that it often takes long for new materials to be adopted. So how can the BTRI help in this regard? Can they help in terms of standard setting? And once we have a BTRI playing a role, how will we be able to incorporate the advantages of BTRI in the government workflow and promote departments' use of such materials? Some departments are not under the management of Development Bureau, so how can you get these departments to take part? On 097, it is a question about trees. The amount is not significant, it's just $100 million, but then the increase is significant. So I want to ask for the TMO, Tree Management Office. With them in place, we have been managing our trees well, but we need to think about how we are adopting a risk-based approach. We would deal with those that are of high risks, but with the planting of trees, we also need to select the right species to plant, and there are guidelines for that. I do appreciate that. But when we have also planted some species that are not suitable for the city, I have dealt with some cases that there are some species that would obstruct pedestrians or disabled persons in particular. So would you have a system to make sure you can monitor certain species situation, and if possible, replace them with the right species to cater to the needs of citizens. Thank you.
2 questions, please. Thank you. About the adoption of new construction materials and the BTRI's work on it, I will defer the question to my colleague. On tree management, for trees which have been planted already, maybe they are no longer suitable for their habitats anymore because the streets may have become crowded. We are now conducting a study on it. We are trying to establish a mechanism with points to assess the health of the trees. The trees are not sick yet, but if they remain in situ, they will become ill, so we should remove them as soon as possible. The point system will be available later this year and will be implemented soon. Mr. Rikilau, thank you, Chairman. In terms of new materials, there are 2 categories. One type of construction materials is entirely new, never seen in Hong Kong before. The other kind of materials are already in use in the mainland. So the work of the BTRI on this is very important. For brand new materials, we need to conduct a lot of tests to set the standards. Afterwards, these would be applied to our capital works and also incorporated in our contracts, so that the new materials will be used in our new projects. For newer materials with cost effectiveness being in use in the mainland and overseas places, the BTRI will conduct some additional testing to align them with our standards. With the testing completed, these materials can be used in Hong Kong as well. The BTRI is going to launch an accreditation plan for materials procured from centralized procurements. Accredited materials will be included in the database, which will be made available to private developers and other government departments. That will save up a lot of time and cost in the regard. Mr. Perry Yu, thank you. My own reply, that's reply 092. I've been actively promoting the development of blue tourism in Hong Kong, that is outlying island and seashore tourism. Now we need to improve the pier if that is to be a success. Now the first phase of the pier improvement program is not satisfactory. 2 piers have been improved. However, the Lai Chi Wharf Pier is yet to be improved. Now with the opening up of the shuttlecock and also the island hopping tourism, we still don't see a timetable for improving the Lai Chi Wharf Pier. And that would be detrimental to our plan to promote island hopping tourism. So can we speed things up? Now I don't know what are some factors for prioritizing some piers under the pier improvement program, but there are some famous piers which are not improved. For example, the High Island Reservoir, it only has one road leading to the reservoir. That is the Manyi Road, and only taxis are allowed in. In the weekend and on holidays, when the weather is fine, there are usually a long queue of passengers waiting for the taxis. I believe it requires the efforts of 4 departments: Water Services Department, Tourism Board, the CDD and the Transport Department. Now let me suggest an easy solution to you. At Paklap 1, there is a very derelict pier. Now, when it is high tide, larger ships can moor as the pier. That is a very nice spot. And it is just some 2 kilometers away from the High Island Reservoir. It's only 40 minutes pleasant walk to the place. Now, for those who come to High Island Reservoir from the Sai Kung Center, they can enjoy the great scenery here and take a ship back to Sai Kung. Now, this pier is not under the pier improvement program, so can we include the pier as well? Secretary. The selection of piers under the pier improvement program is related to utilization of resources. I would defer the question to my team on the factors we considered when we selected piers to be included in the program and whether new other piers will be added to the program. Director for CED. Thank you. We have a cross-departmental department to select piers for improvement. There are 5 major considerations. 1, public safety. 2, accessibility to tourism attractions. 3, usage. 4, environmental and land issue. Now, the cross-departmental departments would consider all the above 5 factors before selecting a pier. Now, for the pier mentioned by Mr. Perry Yu at Paklap 1, I will convey the message to the cross-departmental committee. Chairman, just very briefly. I think you have neglected the access by way of water to the geopark. We have neglected it. Mr. Benson, look, my question is on 022 about archaeological work. Now, I have been following on the issue of tourism is everywhere in Hong Kong. Now, from the government's reply, I can see that there are indeed treasures everywhere in Hong Kong. There are archaeological sites everywhere in Hong Kong. Some are prehistoric sites from the Stone Age era. Now, the latest one is at the Port Island. That's the dinosaur's fossil. Now, with the help of the government, of the Central People's Government, we have moved the fossil to a better place for exhibition. So that's thanks to the help of the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology. Now, in 2013, the FCD has already discovered the dinosaur fossil. However, it has been delayed for 10 years, and it was not excavated until March last year. I wonder why that happened. Why was there such a long delay before the dinosaur fossil was excavated and studied? Now, under the existing policies, unless the Secretary for Development or authorized excavation, otherwise excavation work cannot be conducted. So for sites or articles with proven archaeological value, what is the workflow for granting approval for excavation? Now, we should allow the public to enjoy these artifacts and create synergy with the tourism sector. So is there a mechanism to open up these artifacts for the enjoyment of the public? Secretary, thank you. The question is on the discovery of the dinosaur fossil on Port Island. The AFCD has been made aware of the existence of the dinosaur fossil a long time ago, but it was only confirmed last year that it was an artifact. Now, when the dinosaur fossil was discovered, the AFCD was not sure that it was a piece of fossil. And also, at the time, the AFCD was very busy with the preparatory work for the geopark's inclusion as an international cultural heritage site. Now, the AFCD has consulted the AMO last year about the dinosaur fossil, so the experts confirmed that it was a piece of dinosaur fossil. Afterwards, we clean up the dinosaur fossil and put it up for exhibition swiftly. So that is related to the third question of Mr. Benson Look. When these treasures are discovered, how are we collaborating with the tourism board to showcase these artifacts? Now, for example, as the Heritage Discovery Center, the center will help promote these heritages. Now, under the leadership of the Deputy Chief Secretary for Administration, we have a working group to promote the idea of tourism is everywhere. The steering committee oversees the overall design of a tourism itinerary combining these archaeological treasures. Concerning the mechanism for identifying the value of the excavated items, now for our capital work contracts, we usually have a clause to require the contractors to notify the Development Bureau and other departments when they have discovered items suspected to be artifacts. Now, sometimes you may have noticed that on the paper of the Capital Works Subcommittee, there is the mentioning of a possible sites with archaeological findings. Ms. Lam Chun Sing, thank you. I'm pleased that the value of capital works projects will be increased from $90 billion to $100 billion to $100 billion per year. Now, there are some workers who are responsible for improving the facade of newly built buildings for handing over. Now they have lost many businesses. So for this kind of workers and also contractors responsible for private development projects, how can we ensure that they have sufficient business? Now, reply number 23, Smart Site Safety Program. There's a 4S program with 643 applications. In the end, 49 were withdrawn. Why is that? Is it because of the stringent threshold, or is it because of lack of resources and manpower? What support has the Development Bureau given to these applicants to help them get the label? Now, there are 3 applicants who had their accreditation revoked. Now, for one case, it was a mistake on the part of the Labour Department. It was found that actually the applicants was not up to standard. Is there a miscommunication between the Development Bureau and the Labour Department? For site safety, there should be collaboration between the Development Bureau and the Labour Department. So my major question is, how can the Development Bureaus help more construction sites operators to get the label?
Secretary, thank you. The first question was on the number of private sector projects. Indeed, we have seen a slight decline. And the Financial Secretary said in the next few years, public works, we want to have something in the ballpark of $120 billion compared to $90 billion before. We want to make sure there is still a significant investment in the works trade to meet the gap. But then I often said before, we should not rely on public works in the long run. We have public-private sector works amounting to approximately 40% of the total number of projects. So if we have no private sector projects at all, that will be a problem. We believe with the recovery of the economy, there will be better prospects. We have also been doing more. We are asking the Lands Department and the Building Department for land lease modifications or approval of plans. They should streamline the process, approve the plans sooner. And we have seen the relevant departments indeed do streamline the process in the last few months. And for cases that do not require payment of land premium, the Lands Department will be able to approve relevant applications in the next few months. As for question number 023, who is going to answer this question? I think we do not have the relevant figures at hand. Why the 40-odd companies or applicants withdrew their applications? We do not have the causes. Perhaps we can provide a written response later. Can you also include the answer to Mr. Lam's question on communication with the Labor Department as well in your written response? Thank you. Mr. Lau Kwok-fan, I want to ask about 033. I've all along paid close attention to construction costs in Hong Kong. We have been plagued by high construction costs in Hong Kong. It has hurt our competitiveness. The Development Bureau has done much in recent years. In September 2023, they have streamlined planning-related legislation. We have also seen it recently, they have implemented dozens of initiatives to streamline development approval processes. So I welcome these efforts. But I think we can do more in terms of legislation and standards. We have seen in the process some departments were very proactive. For example, the Fire Service Department had been implementing a one-stop service for inspection and approval. But for some processes, say the Building Department's processes, due to existing legislation, the processes cannot be streamlined much more. For, say, the Town Planning Board, whenever we have to submit some amendments to plans for temporary structures and permanent structures, they have different standards. I think there's room to relax some restrictions. Right now, temporary structures, they can make use of MIC now. And in new territories, there are some temporary uses. Before, you would say temporary to be 3 to 5 years. But now we have temporary structures being there for 20 to 30 years, and they seem to be still quite stable. In future, for the construction of northern metropolis, would the administration consider promulgating a different set of standards for temporary structures, specifically so as to have a more simplified process? Say for small houses, they would only need a T2 approval process. The T2 approval process would go through the buildings ordinance, but then there is a new territories version. Can we do more in streamlining the approval processes? Thank you. I said in the last session as well, for temporary structures, they are very durable, actually. Temporary meaning they can be constructed quickly, but they are durable. They can endure much for a relatively long period of time. So can we have simplified approval processes for these temporary structures? Do we have room to not go with our existing approach for submitting plans to the buildings department for approval? I think we should take an industry-oriented approach. For those in agriculture, they want to have some innovative applications on their agricultural land, and they need to have some simple structures. If they have to engage professionals, it is not exactly profitable. So we are looking at how we can relax restrictions in this area. Can we do the same for other industries? It may not be as simple, because if we have other industrial parks, most likely there will be buildings, not just temporary structures. But if we can have specific cases that we can discuss, I think we can probably go deeper on what we can do. Thank you. Mr. Holden Chow, I want to ask about 081, a question of mine. I first want to ask about, for the study on Central Water's artificial islands, how much has been spent. If we stop here, how much can we save? And the reply said we had already spent $400 million. We have been talking about we should have regard to the prevailing circumstances. Once we have the findings of the study, would the findings include consideration of the prevailing circumstances, say the then government's fiscal position and the global situation, whether we can actually afford the project then? Would this be included in the assessment findings of the study? My next question is also related to artificial island. We don't know what is going to happen in the end. We do understand that the government is in a tight fiscal position. If we are not going forward with the artificial islands project, right now with Hongshui-Q to Tuen Mun West to Sunny Bay, there was supposed to be a railway section. Well, some residents in Tuen Mun actually called for a station to be placed for Gold Coast. But that aside, would you still go forward with the railway project? You are not linking that with the artificial island project, right? Is my understanding correct? Because for the section from Hongshui-Q to Tuen Mun West to Sunny Bay, it would help people connect to the Tongchong line to get to Hong Kong Island. So if we're not going forward with the project for artificial islands, we would still have this railway section that goes all the way to Shanghai, right? Is my understanding correct? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you. Before we answer the questions, let me say this. For the study that has commenced, we will go on with that. Because we need to ask ourselves, would the study findings be useful? And of course, the answer is yes. We never gave up on the project on Kaoyu Artificial Islands. We are just slowing down a little. So if the study findings are useful, why halt the study? Why not just go on with the study? Because if we are to commence the study later, it may cost even more. So this is where we came from. The member asked also if we would consider the cost and potential income in the study findings. We have already some figures produced with this study, and I believe this study would update the relevant figures with reference to the prevailing circumstances when the study is published. But I think they would only consider the cost and potential revenue. Who is going to pay for the project, the financing model, and whether we're going to adopt public-private partnership? These will not be considered in this study. I think we can simply have reference to the then government's fiscal position and the financial situation then, and see if we're going to go on with the project. As for the railway project from Hongshui-Q to Moon and Sunny Bay, will we go on with this project? All along, the government said that this railway project is connected to the artificial islands project because it will connect artificial islands with the northern metropolis. So these two projects have always been linked to connect the two land parcels. If we are not going forward with the Kaoyu artificial islands project, this is just an assumption because we are not giving up on the project. If we go on with this railway project, it would not be cost effective. And for the Sunny Bay section in particular, this is to construct a depot for the trains. If we are not going forward with the Kaoyu Artificial Islands project, there is really no point in going forward with the railways project. So these two projects have always been connected in some way. But let me say again, the Kaoyu Artificial Islands project is seen as a project that has to be done to create land. It's just a matter of time of when this project will be taken forward. Mr. Yim Kong, I want to ask about 072, a question of mine. I asked if the administration would encourage the civic society, especially the business sector, to make capital contribution and jointly build patriotic education bases related to local history. And I don't think there is much mention of that in the answer. I want to ask if the administration has any plans related to this to encourage the business sector to build patriotic educational bases. The administration also said to promote culture, it would involve multiple bureaus and departments. We would need the CMAB, the CSTB, and the TLB involvement. Is there an effective interdepartmental coordination mechanism in place so that we can showcase our rich historical and cultural resources to achieve synergy? If there is synergy, who is going to take the lead? Thank you.
Secretary, Chairman, on the first question, have we found a site or a building for the purpose of a patriotic educational base? Now, the Development Bureau has not made such a plan yet. However, in the northern metropolis, a large part of the land has been reserved for GIC purposes. We can surely discuss with other policy bureaus to find a site for building a patriotic educational base. We need to decide on the scale of the base and who should be operating the base. I'm not worried about the availability of land because we have reserved a lot of land for these GIC establishments. Now, in terms of urban-rural integration, we have stressed that in the Northern Metropolis planning, we will promote urban-rural harmony. There are a lot of rural townships with rich historical and cultural resources. So in terms of our mechanism, how can we ensure that we can promote this idea, and how can we facilitate the plan? Now, there are lots of village houses in the township, but they are allowed for residential purposes only. They cannot be used for running hostels. So how can we help them achieve that? And also, some villages don't have the necessary financial resources to make this happen. So how can we match these villages with capital and funding? So will the Development Bureau take the lead on this? Yes, we still are. In terms of hostel accommodation and so on, when there is a framework set, then we can communicate with the HYAB and the other policy bureaus. Now, in the first round, we still have Ms. Eunice Yung and Ms. Carmen Kan. Now, I allowed 5 minutes for the previous members, but for the remaining 2 members, I will only give you 4 minutes straight. Ms. Eunice Yung. Thank you. My own questions. Reply 115 and 116, water supply. I asked about the number of leakages detected by the Water Intelligence Network over the past 5 years. Now, between year 2000 and 2024, number of cases detected increased from 520 to 1,221 last year. So the technology is ready, but it seems that the problem of leakage has exacerbated. So right now, can the Water Intelligence Network notify the users immediately for rapid maintenance? Now, usually the pipes are buried deep underground. So can the Water Intelligence Network notify you in advance that this is a risky area and you should perform maintenance and repair in advance? If not, can we introduce this technology under the Water Intelligence Network? Reply 116, the number of meter readers. Now, there are 147, including 10 senior meter readers and 132 meter readers. Now, we are promoting smart water meter. So can we reduce the number of meter readers and make use of electronic water meters and save some money? These are questions for the WSD. Mr. Roger Wong, please. Thank you. Concerning the Water Intelligence Network, in the first quarter this year, we have completed installation for all 2,400 spots. Now we are basically breaking up the water supply network into 2,400 spots and find the leakage. Now we use computer to analyze leakage, especially overnight, because water usage overnight is minimal. So when there is usage overnight time, it is usually leakage. So we will focus our resources on fixing these spots. Ms. Young said the number of leakages detected increased from 500 to 1,200 in 5 years' time. That's because we simply didn't know there were leakages. So can we perform maintenance actions in advance? Now we are installing water sensors to collect data for building a large model for analysis by AI. So the first phase will be completed by 2027. For meter readers and smart meters. Now, smart meters are still pricey compared with manual meter reading. Yes, we can save some costs on the meter readers, but still the technology is pricier than manual labor. So under the principle of cost effectiveness, we are rationalizing the routes of our meter readers. For example, we have installed smart meters on the whole of Taiwan because we can save much on this. So we are going to roll out the use of smart meters gradually, and we can adjust the number of meter readers then. Just briefly, meter readers internet work has increased to 13 last year, twice as much or thrice as much compared with a few years ago. So the WSD needs to pay attention to OSH of meter readers. Thank you. For just 4 minutes. The last member, Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you. My question is on the cost effectiveness of PSGO. Now, my question is on Ms. Doreen Kong's question, reply 2021. Now, since the establishment of the PSGO, 540 projects have been reviewed by the office. Now, over the past 5 years, however, in reply 21, it seems that the number of projects reviewed did not increase. In 2025, only 16 projects were scrutinized. 2023 to 447, 2022 to 352, the year before that, 78. So it seems there is a declining trend of number of projects being scrutinized by the office in recent years. Why is that? Now, for works with increased approved project estimates, the Organic Resources Recovery Center Phase 2 has its budget increased because of price adjustment. Now, this is an additional item on top of contingency expenditure, so it is not satisfactory. Some consultants and contractors have been assessed as unsatisfactory. Still, they were awarded with tenders subsequently. So, why did the PSGO scrutinize fewer projects in recent years? And second, has the PSGO improved its assessment on contractors' performance, including fatal and non-fatal accidents, impact on their success of bidding? I will defer the question to Mr. Law. Mr. Law? Chairman, as I've mentioned, basically we would scrutinize all the projects. It seems the number of projects scrutinized has decreased. That's because for projects scrutinized in a certain year, they were not approved by the PWSC. They were rolled over to the next year. There's quite a huge backlog over the past few years, so it seems there are quite a number of projects not scrutinized. Starting last year, the approval process has been sped up. So this year, for 2024 to 5, that's why there are fewer projects scrutinized. I would like to emphasize capital works submitted for the PWSC for approval the number depends on the government's resources available for new projects. Thank you. But the cost saved is also dwindling. Thank you. Next question. About I noticed members' concern on the price adjustment item. We are studying with the FSTB on how we can keep the costs down better. In terms of contractors and consultants' performance, we give a score to them each quarter, including their performance at work and their safety situation. That would affect their likelihood of tender success. Ms. Carmen Can? I just think the government should seriously consider how to better assess the performance of the consultants. Thank you. That concludes this session. The next session will begin at 5:20.